All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining. Welcome back to another segment of the Senior Living Sizzle. I'm Christie Freeze, your host with SalesMail, and today we're diving into a challenge that honestly I believe so many senior living teams face, right? And that is no-shows. Because oftentimes a no-show isn't actually lack of interest. It's more often than not fear, overwhelm, uncertainty. And so we're going to really be talking about that specific part of the process today. And as you can see, I am joined by Betty Jo Webb from True Connection Communities. So Betty Jo, thank you so much for being here with us today. Before we do dive in, I'd love for you to share just a little bit about yourself and why this conversation matters to you.
Oh, thank you, Christy. Yeah, so I'm just excited to be here. And I am Betty Jo Webb, Vice President of Sales for True Connection Communities. We are independent living and active adult communities. And just we deal with no-shows on a pretty regular basis. So we've been talking about that a lot in our company. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who's dealing with no-shows out there. And it's important because, when you're in senior living, you already know that there's a certain amount of fear and anxiety in regards to coming into a community. You don't know what to expect. That's why it's important to me because, our job is to make them feel at home before they actually become a resident.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why we thought of you when having this conversation and bringing you on as a guest. So I'm really grateful that you're here. And, I think everybody on this call, for the most part, our audience is sales team members. And so we've all experienced this feeling before. And in fact, if you've experienced no-shows in any capacity, I'd love to just hear that in the chat, yes or no. And because right? Like I always give the example of we've had a really awesome conversation on the phone, which I think used to be the big obstacle, right? It was, okay, we got to get these new leads in through our website or a place for mom or even just a regular call in. We have a great conversation. They're excited. They're going to bring their mom. We're like, oh God, we've done it. We're so excited to see them. Yes. But then the day of the actual tour shows up and they're nowhere to be found. And so I would love to hear your perspective and then I'll share mine as well. But what do you think is really happening in that moment when folks don't show up?
Well, what I think is happening in that moment is we may have missed that opportunity to get that emotional hook, right? So if we are able to confirm the emotional why before
Yep.
we even book the tour, we're not just scheduling a time. When we say, so would Tuesday at 2 work for you? Cold, transactional, right? It just doesn't feel warm. But when we say, Mary, you mentioned that you're feeling isolated at home and you're wanting more connection. How about let's get you out of the house Tuesday at 2? That way you can experience what this will really feel like. Doesn't that sound like you're inviting somebody into your house?
Yeah.
And that really builds that emotional bond, or it starts to, right? People show up for their why. They're not going to show up for your calendar.
Yeah. And I do think, we have a tendency, like I mentioned before, to almost put all of our eggs in the we've got them to say yes to visiting basket. We're like, we've done it. Okay. Because I know, and all of you watching know, we do a great job when a family does, in fact, arrive on site to our community. I
Yeah.
trust that every single person watching this does an amazing job of building that emotional connection when a family is in front of them on site. But I think this small little bridge is really kind of where we're missing the boat a little bit. And I often think about like my own self or all of us. When I go somewhere for the first time and I don't know where to park, I don't know what entrance to go into, I don't know like how long am I going to be there for, what's the agenda, it makes me a little bit like, I don't know if I even want to go. And so I think another piece of this whole puzzle is that we're not articulating the expectation of what's going to happen when they actually arrive. I've had families be like, "Are you going to let me leave?" Like, of course I'm going to let you leave. So, I would love to just kind of hear too, and I know we're kind of already touching on it, but like what emotions do you think that families are carrying between that inquiry and then arriving on site for the tour?
It's almost like what you don't know, right? Like the fear of what you don't know. You don't know what to expect. I mean, even like getting ready to leave in the morning, all of the things that are going through your head about, is this the right move? Should I do this? How's mom gonna fit in? What if she doesn't fit in? What if she's sad? What if I'm sad? I promised I'd never do this. Like all of that anxiety and things that are going through your head at the time. And if we are as a sales director or director of sales, sales counselor in a community, if the more special that we can make it, the better off we are, right? So think about saying, instead of saying, would you like to tour? Would you like to come in and tour? How about, what if I reserve this time especially for you? How about, can I count on you to come in on Tuesday? Because then it puts a little bit
Yeah.
more, ownership on it, right? Christy, the other thing that I think about is, why don't we give them a reason beyond just a tour,
Mm,
right? Like lunch, come in and have lunch with our residents.
yeah.
And independent living and active adult, it's like, come in and have happy hour with
I was gonna say, yeah, maybe a cocktail.
Come in and have a wine tasting with us. Come in for a
Yeah.
chef's table dinner. Hey, how about lunch with the executive director? Come in and see an apartment that fits your needs, or check out one of our cottages if that's more what you're looking for. I think instead of a tour, we need to start thinking about this as an experience
Hmm.
for our prospects, because the more they feel that it's an experience. That's why you want to go back to Disney World, right? It's an experience. So the more they feel that it's an experience, the more likely they're going to, number one, show up for that tour and come back for the retour and then sign
Yes.
and move in.
Yeah. And then the rest is just like icing on the cake, right? It'll just easily flow. I do think, even just hearing you say that, it's so distinct to me where I can see, right? Where if I'm going to visit a community to look at a two-bedroom apartment, I don't know, maybe,
Yeah.
especially if I've left the house and I had a hard time finding the place or parking or I didn't know which entrance to go into, it could be really easy for me to just turn around and go right back home where it's comfortable. And I
Oh,
think
yeah,
that happens more often than we realize. I think that people do, in fact, get overwhelmed, especially if it's the prospect themselves, in your specific communities with independent and active adult, you're probably experiencing a lot of the actual prospect themselves coming and
definitely.
doing a lot of the research. And so if they've lived in their home for 30, 40, 50 years and they know where everything is and it's comfortable and they feel good there, and they leave the house and come somewhere where they don't know where they're going, they don't know what to expect, it's likely that they could just turn around and leave. And if you know that someone is waiting for you, if I got a pre-tour reminder, which I know we'll talk more about this in a little bit, but you all know because I'll talk about this till I'm blue in the face. I love pre-tour reminder videos.
Oh,
And
yes.
friends, this video can be evergreen. Universal message that says, "Hi, I'm Christy. I can't wait for you to tour today, or I can't wait to visit with you or have you for happy hour. And I just wanted to let you know I'm who's going to be waiting for you. This is where you're going to park. This is the main entrance, and I'm going to be there at the welcome sign ready to greet you." It is really hard to turn around and not show up when you know somebody is waiting for you
That's right.
because they want to, in fact, create or have an experience with you.
Yeah, and I think most people like set the tour, set the tour, move on, right? What about like a multi-confirmation cadence? And that's
Mm,
something that people don't really think about. One of the things, Christy, that you talked to my team about, I don't know, about a year ago at my sales
yeah.
summit was like immediately sending that sales mail. And it's interesting because when I started thinking about talking about this, and I started asking people and just kind of getting some, feedback from my team. That truly does work. Like if you send that sales mail immediately when you get that get the inquiry, that increases your inquiry to tour every single
Every
time.
time.
So we're like, why not do that? Why are we not doing that
Yeah.
every single time? And then you send the sales mail, and then they confirm the tour. By the time they confirm that tour, then you kind of know a little bit about what they're looking at. Why not send another sales mail to show like a preview of what they'll
Uh,
see? And that'll kind of set that, this is going to be fun. It's
yeah.
exciting. It's not, and they're no longer afraid. They get to see like
Yep.
from the entrance through to where the cottage or apartment is. And then it feels more like home. They're not they and guess what? You feel more like home.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
connection's there.
I really do believe that, and I've said this a million times too. I'm sure I said it to your team as well, that I really, truly, firmly believe that silence does not equal disinterest.
Right.
I think that silence just equals fear or uncertainty or overwhelm
Right.
or all of those things, right? And I think about big picture when I zoom out from like what we're doing for families. We are guiding them. We
That's right.
are sales directors or community sales specialists or whatever our sales title is, but ultimately we're guides. We're guides and we're educators. And so, if we can guide a family or a prospect themselves on exactly what to expect, they in turn are going to feel more confident. And do we all feel better when we feel more confident going into a decision or into something that we've never done before? Yeah.
Yeah, we do.
I love that your team is doing that and that they took that advice because it's true. It is, it's one video.
That's
It
right.
is one video that you can use over and over and over again. And to be able to put a face to the name, to let them know what to expect. When they walk in, they're no longer having to worry about, to your point, right, Betty Joe, of like, okay, where is the main entrance or what is the community room or what does this apartment look like? They're actually building a relationship and deepening their trust and connection with you.
Right. The other thing that I think about too is like, when you're doing that sales mail, here's where I'll meet you. Like show that
Hmm.
front entrance. Maybe if your community is like in a downtown area, show them where they're going to park because think
Yes.
about a senior and the anxiety that they have
Hmm.
when they don't know if there's going to be somewhere for them to park. I mean, I know I do not like to parallel park. So
No.
I'm sure most of you do not like to parallel park, or at least I'm thinking that's the case. And some of them have driving anxiety anyway. So
Yeah.
the more you can show them, an email, that's kind of yuck, right?
Yeah.
Text message, that's kind of okay. That's pretty good. But a video will show way more of your community. It'll show way more of those smiling faces. It just reduces that anxiety. You can almost feel them just sigh of relief and breathe when they
Yeah.
come into the community.
This is so unrelated and not at all part of what I'd planned to talk about today, but ironically, because you all know I love video, I did this just for my baby shower this past weekend because it was at my grandma's and I joke that she lives in the boonies. You can't see her driveway. You have no idea. And we moved the location kind of last minute. And so I literally stood at the end of the driveway and I made a video for all of my girlfriends that were coming to the baby shower and I was like, "Hey, just a heads up, this turn's going to come up quick on you. This is where you're going to park. This is the driveway. I'm going to be waiting for you at the garage opening." And all of them were like, that made it so much easier to know where to go. And I was like, this can work in all areas of your life. But it's true, right? And if you know people
Yes.
don't know what to expect or they've never been there before, give them the confidence, give them the skills and the resources to
Mhm.
show up and be able to then actually have the emotional and mental space to navigate this conversation an incredibly emotional decision. Even in active adult and independent living, people are
That's right.
leaving their homes of a
That's
really
right.
long time.
Yeah, they definitely are. Another thing that I think about too is, you can use sales mail not just for the prospect. Find out who's coming with them.
Hmm.
Are they going to bring their daughter? Well, and also think about this, right? More attendees means more accountability. Mom, I'm going to pick you up at,
Yep.
1:45. We've got our appointment at 2, or, so if
Yep.
they can bring someone else, why not send that sales mail to them too? It just
Yeah.
makes them part of the process because you can believe they're going to be part of that decision.
For sure. And it's going to, and again, I keep talking about confidence, but it's going to really empower them with the same confidence that we want our prospects to feel. And then everyone's on the same page, everyone knows what to expect. And you really, as the sales team or sales director, you look like a hero because you are. And it's something that takes 30 to 45 seconds. And I do love what you said. Some people are sending this through email. Totally okay. My pro tip always, though, is to put video in the subject line, especially for the pre-tour. Video for Betty Joe, tour reminder at 2, right? Something like that. But you can also send these through text message. So it's a really great way to again, I'm a big fan of if you've made the video one time, work smarter, friends, not harder, and use that video in multiple different modalities that are really going to land for your prospects or their family members.
One of the comments that was on one of the invites that was on LinkedIn said something along the lines of tracking no-shows. And
Mm,
the person that did it was it's like a VP in another industry. And
yes, I saw that.
right, so that resonated with me as that's my next step, right? I am
Yes.
going to start tracking my no-shows because if you have that sales director who's getting a lot of no-shows, they're probably not doing that video. So the two correlate. So anyway, that's my next step.
I really love that. That's a great, especially for any of you that are leaders on this conversation, definitely I would encourage you to do that. And I think that my own reasoning is very selfish because I want to see what your conversion ratios were before and after leveraging video, but it's just good information. And I do think that, again, I don't think it's on purpose. I don't think it's intentional, but I think I was a sales director for almost a decade. And I think that we very much have been taught to focus on getting the tour and
Right.
getting a check.
That's
Like our
right.
goal is to get somebody to say yes on the phone or yes via email to coming in and touring with us. And then everything else will figure itself out, hopefully. And then we get them to say yes and give us a deposit. But this is a part where we can be really intentional. We can track it as a KPI. We
Right.
can use tools like SalesMail to, again, you can automate this. You can easily have it saved as a favorite, rinse and repeat. You mentioning that comment on LinkedIn made me go look at my LinkedIn really quick because there was Jill Valdez actually commented as well, and said that this is such an important perspective because I think a lot of people in senior living unintentionally interpret a no-show as a sales problem when many
Right.
times it's actually an emotional overwhelm problem. And kind of like what you shared, right? They're not just touring a building, they're not just touring an apartment. They are confronting change, loss, uncertainty, role reversal, financial pressure. She goes on to list all kinds of emotions that people are experiencing. So, why wouldn't we meet them with a really emotional, vulnerable message? I think that's like, I know many of you watching are already sales mail users, so kudos to you. And hopefully, this will just encourage you to lean into this specific use case. But I think that the reason that people don't show up on camera, especially for this specific use case that we're talking about, this stage of the process, is because they've not met the person yet, right? Like
Right.
Betty Joe, if I had never met you before, maybe it was a little bit more intimidating to send a sales mail saying like, "Hi, I'm Christy. I can't wait to meet you." But now that we've met many times, I feel so comfortable doing it. But what I really want you all listening and watching to just keep in the back of your mind is that your prospects and their families are being extremely vulnerable to
That's
make
right.
the call, to say yes to coming in for the tour, and to physically making it to showing up. And so, if you want them to continue that vulnerability with you, which will in fact build and enhance trust and connection, you should in fact meet them with the same vulnerability of just getting on camera for 35 seconds to let them know where the parking spot is. You know what I mean? So, I think that helps kind of reduce the fear of being on camera in the first place.
Oh, I think so too. And the more you do it and the more you get accustomed to it, and don't overthink it. Even though I've seen some of your tracks where you're like recording it over and over and over again, like
Yeah.
your bloopers, right? We all have bloopers, but just
Yeah.
don't overthink it. Be yourself,
Yeah.
just let it let your personality come out because let's face it, salespeople have personality. We
They
have
do.
personalities.
Yeah.
Just let them come out.
And you already got dressed for work today. I always like to say that. Like, if somebody were to call you right now and say, "Hey, Betty Joe, I would love to come tour in an hour. Do you have availability for that?" If you did, what would you say?
Yes.
Yeah, get here. And you have to trust as a sales team member that you look and sound the same as you will in person. I promise. I know watching it back and listening back, you're not going to feel that way, but I promise. And that the other thing is that you already have everything that you need. You know what to say, you know what to do because you're already doing it in person.
That's right.
We didn't even mean for this to be like a confidence, camera confidence coaching session, but I hope
We
that those
are.
things have really helped you, just stay authentic, stay true to yourself. It really does make a difference. And wouldn't you rather be able to walk into a community and see that someone is a real person than a perfect polished robot? I would
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Alex, I love that comment. Why not connect that video to their why, right? Like,
love that.
that's a great comment.
I love that. And for those of you that maybe can't see, this comment says to optimize the impact of the video. Perhaps we can connect the video to the reason they are coming. For example, I will meet you right here at the blank, where I will personally escort you to the blank activity. I know you're going to have a great experience. I love that. That's really great advice.
Agreed.
So I know we're going to probably come back to talking about the pre-tour and the no-shows and that kind of thing, but I would also love to chat about, you know, after the tour. I think that's another really
Mhm.
important piece. You already mentioned around the inquiry, so I think we can kind of keep scooting on that. But once the tour has actually happened, we've done the hard work, we've had an amazing visit, they had a great time at happy hour and a concert or whatever the case may have been. I think that's another really unique place to just continue momentum. And so, have you seen any of your team members leveraging it in that capacity?
Oh, absolutely, Christy. They definitely do. And we know that a lot of times you don't get that check on that first
For
visit,
sure.
right? So we're
Right.
always looking for that retour and another reason to bring them into the community. One of the things that I love it when our teams do this is they may have met some of the residents when they did the tour. Why not let the residents participate in this sales mail, right? Or even just do the sales mail.
Yep.
And they're always willing. I'm not
Oh, yeah.
usually they never say no. So it's like let them
Yeah.
invite the person, and that also reduces that anxiety. And guess what? They're afraid at that point, our prospect is afraid they might be missing out on something. They enjoyed the lunch that they had. They enjoyed participating in that activity. And now they're at home and their new friends are having fun in the community. They're missing out and they
Yeah.
know they're missing out. So that is going to go way further to get them back in for a retour than just a phone call. Hey, just checking in. No,
It's
no,
like my least favorite phrase in the history of
yes,
life. It just daggers me in the heart.
stop it.
Stop it. Don't call to check in. You have so many other reasons to reach out and you can provide value. And again, right, I know that we're talking about reducing no-shows on kind of that initial visit,
Yeah.
but you're so right. Very, very rarely does a family or a prospect say yes to the dress, if you will, on that very first visit. And
Mhm.
so I think the same thing we're talking about with no-shows applies to that retour or that revisit where they could have had an amazing experience. They met a bunch of residents, they had an awesome time. And if we don't continue the same intentional, dynamic, empathetic follow up, we're going to lose them just like we might have lost them before they even arrived on site. We talk a lot about EDs do like a post tour call or a post tour follow up. How impactful would it be to have your executive director and the resident that they got to hang out with to say, hey, we really loved having you here last week. We would love to have you back in for insert blank event and let us know, if that works for you and we'd love to see you then.
Yeah, definitely. When someone comes in, they typically want to see that person in charge. And so,
Hmm.
especially if they don't get to meet your executive director during the tour, getting that executive director in front of them, way better than a phone call, way
Oh
better
yeah.
than an email, even it's better than a text message, much more personal.
Yeah,
And, I'm a firm believer that consumers today, they want that personal touch
they do.
and personal, true connection. That's what I
Aha!
want. Just a little
You
plug there.
there's so many puns in the True Connection community's name and the title of this conversation. So we had to play on that a little bit, but it really does make a difference. And I've heard from plenty of partners of ours that the post-tour call for an ED can be really it can seem really daunting or it can seem like another task or something that you kind of like have to do. But when we see executive directors lean into creating, even if it's an evergreen, I'm a big fan of personalized videos on the post tour, and I typically don't promote an evergreen as a post tour follow up. But for an executive director who is busy and running a whole community, this could really be beneficial. Hey, I'm Betty Joe, the executive director at the community. I just wanted to let you know we loved having you. I'm so sorry I didn't get a chance to meet you, but I would love to be here if you have any questions or need anything. Here's my contact information, etc. I promise you, you will see. Gosh, I wish I remember the stat. If somebody knows it, put it in the chat. But I think when the executive director gets involved in the process, it's like 63% increase in getting that prospect to convert into an actual resident with one simple touch point.
Love that stat. You do not have a clue how many times I repeat that over and over again. It
It
is
makes such a
huge.
difference. Okay, so just as we talked about in preparation for this, the time goes by so fast. I know. We have 4 minutes left in our conversation. We are going to stick around for about 15 minutes for Q&A. So if you have questions for Betty Joe or for myself, please start dropping them in the chat and we will definitely answer them. And then I wanted to just kind of see here what other questions I had for you. I mean, you've already kind of shared really what's working for your teams as far as like sending that inquiry response, sending that pre-tour reminder, personalizing that whole entire process. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to share or anything that's been working really, really well for you guys?
So, Christy, one thing that I think about, and maybe this will spur some conversation, is like, how do we do? We've got to have a no-show recovery process, right? You're still going to
Mm,
have a no-show from time to time. We've got to think about how we recover from that. How do we get
I
them
love
back
that.
in? How do we keep from being ghosted?
Hmm.
And I think some of the things we've talked about is we can reapply those things. Maybe a heartfelt text immediately when they're not there. Hey,
Yeah.
worried about you. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Thinking about you. I'm happy to reschedule. Have some
Yeah.
time available this afternoon. Why not try to get them back in same day?
Yeah, that's great advice. I actually there's so many things that as you're talking, I can like reflect back to my own sales director days and right, like I just didn't know what I didn't know. That's the whole point of having these types of conversations. But I do remember it feeling so personal. Like,
Oh yeah,
well, I guess I'll just never talk to them again if they didn't want to show up for the visit that I prepared for and told everyone that they were coming. And it's not that at all, right? And that's why I think we focus so much on the front end of this conversation about it being so emotional that there are so many things going on. They're not even thinking about you yet. They don't know you yet. And so it is very much meeting them where they are. And so I love that kind of recovery plan that you just shared of saying, "Hey, we were really looking forward to seeing you today," or "We really missed you. Are you okay? Is everything all right? Can I help with anything?" And really taking the pressure away from it being like, "I was hoping you'd be here so that you would sign a check and move in next week." Like that's so transactional, and that's just not how the natural decision-making process even works.
right. It's not.
Let
We're
me
better than that.
We're better than that. And again, I think it's so interesting, right? That I don't think we would act like that or treat people like that in person. I think the same thing we're talking about being vulnerable on camera and showing up in this different way, the same is true that we kind of hide behind it when we can just send an email or a text and be like, "Oh, missed you today. Let me know if you want to reschedule." Like, wait, what?
Don't hit the easy button. Do not.
Don't, don't. Because it is difficult and it is an emotional process, I believe, regardless of the stage or the service line, I suppose, that you're searching for. If you have to leave your home of 30, 40, 50, 60 years, that's not something to take lightly. That's something to really slow down. I always like to say slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And
There
if
you
we can
go.
slow down and really be intentional and meet people where they are and guide them like we would guide our family member or like we would want to be guided.
Mhm.
I remember being a 21-year-old senior lifestyle advisor and being like, this title doesn't make any sense for me. I've got no right to be doing this. But what I learned really quickly is that I did because I was just really focused on listening,
Mhm.
learning about them, learning what their challenges and obstacles were, and then holding their hand and going at the pace that they want to go at, not the pace we want to go at.
That's right.
I love SalesMail. I'm working on encouraging my team to join me in the video experience. They're really good at stepping in during the tour. Tell me, how do I track my no-shows? I mean, I suppose it's something that you could probably do like through your CRM or,
Right.
if you've had a conversation with a family and they're scheduled to visit, you could probably have some type of an additional like activity tab that says like no showed.
Yeah, it needs to be a drop down, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like you completed the tour, it should be part of your drop down in your CRM that says no show.
Yeah.
And then you may have to build a report because I don't know of anyone in the senior industry who is tracking that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there are some out there that are, but yeah, we're going to figure out how to track it for sure.
If you are, tell us your tips and tricks. We must work together. We'd love to hear how you're doing that. Because, it reminds me of cold leads. We mark
Mhm.
leads once they've gone cold after 30, 60, 90, 120, whatever your specific kind of cold lead threshold is. And then you can run a cold lead report. Again, another powerful use case for SalesMail where people who are a little hesitant to get on camera see success in that because they've sent it to, I don't know, let's call it 300 people, and they actually get responses where people are like, "Oh, I've actually moved into a different community. I'm no longer looking." Like responses are still success.
Mhm.
Just because everyone's not responding like, "Oh, Betty Joe, I can't wait to move into your community. Thank you so much for reaching back out. I'm so far, I forgot about this." It's not that. It's something that we can really use to be intentional. And again, like we talked about earlier, to not just call and check in. Yeah, StoryPoint Group is tracking canceled tours in our CRM Salesforce. So yeah,
There you go.
whether it's a
Be
canceled
done.
tour, no show, etc. Peter does have a question. It says, what are the key metrics you focus on as a VP of sales that have the biggest impact in occupancy?
The key metrics that we focus on, you've got your standard metrics, right? Your your tour to move-ins, like that's where you know where your lead is getting lost in that pipeline, in that funnel.
Yep.
But some of the things that we also track, it is, are we hitting our standards? Like, are we hitting the number of calls that are a part of our sales standards? For True Connections, we make 35 calls a day. Some of you that are on here that have worked with me before, I see Greta, I see Alex, you guys know about the 11 by 11. You start your calls early in the morning and try to get a minimum of 11 calls done by 11 a.m. And if you do that, then that sets up your afternoon for success.
Wow,
So,
I like that.
right. And it has a nice little ring to it
It
too,
does.
right?
I love 11s. Yeah.
So that those are the things that I look for. The things that you can't track though are some of the things that are the most important, and that is the connection, the real connection that you make with the prospects, with the prospect family, and let's don't forget our referral partners.
Hmm.
They're just as important, if not more so, because those referral partners hold 10, 12, 20 move-ins for you.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a whole sizzle about that. We've talked about that kind of, in excess, but it is so true. I think about even like we worked with a place for momandcaring.com when I was a sales director, and I think about how many leads they are sending and funneling and sending to all of the people and even our local referral partners. They're very rarely getting something that says, "Hey, Betty Joe, thank you so much for the referral of Sally. She's actually moved in this week and she's having an amazing experience. And she probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for you." So if you have anybody else that reminds you of Sally, just keep our community in mind because she was a great fit and we really appreciate you doing that. They're not getting that.
No, they're not. And not only, professional referral sources, but do not forget your A Place for Mom, your
Mhm.
caring.com, those reps rarely get that circle back.
Yeah.
And when you circle back, they're going to send you another lead.
Yes, they
And
are.
then you circle back and they're going to send you another lead.
That's
Like
right.
it's that engagement is
Yeah.
huge.
You all know this about me that I just become instantly friends with everyone. And so I did become like pals with some of my really great referral partners because I would do that because it felt good for me. I kind of felt like I was like closing the loop a little bit, and I knew it had to feel good for them. Nobody is in this industry at large, whether you're on the referral side, the operator side, provider side, nobody is in this industry unless you really just care about people and you care about older adults who are navigating this experience and want to make it the best possible one for them. And so to be able to get that kind of, it's like words of affirmation, right? It's like, "Oh, I did that. I did that." And to know that they had such a key piece in the process, it really does go a long way. And I guarantee you, since the theme is in fact no-shows here, I guarantee you that those referral partners will help you to make
Yes.
sure that the prospect or the family does in fact arrive if you're having that type of communication and rapport with them throughout all of the referrals they send you. Okay,
Very
let's
good.
see here. Alex just is sharing some more camera tips. I think it's important to be authentic and comfortable behind the camera. Don't overthink it or spend 2 hours on creating a video. At the same time, don't send out a video that does not present well. Yeah, I think, some of my best tips around that are think of it as a video voicemail. The cadence that you would leave in a voicemail is about the cadence that a video should be. We have all kinds of beautiful virtual backgrounds now and filters and lenses and all kinds of things that can make it so that if you don't like your office or you don't like the location that you were going to take the video in, we've overcome that. But I always say, you definitely don't even want to spend 30 minutes on a 30-second video. If you like what you said when you said it, save it. If you like what you said when you said it in the video, just save it and send it. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. People, I think, really appreciate our ums or our ahs, or like you've seen me do it probably a couple times on this conversation where I'm like looking into the abyss for my next words. Like that's just human, you know, that's how we talk. That's how we interact with people. And so be who you are. Don't feel like you need to be this like cookie cutter, polished, perfect person because they don't want that. They want you to be real and authentic and true to who you are.
Yeah, sometimes when you're that perfect, polished person, that's going to add to their anxiety because they're not going to think that they're the perfect, polished person.
Mm.
So they're going to go to their comfortable shoe down the street
Yeah.
when they could have come to you if you just sent that first video that you liked what you said.
Yeah. We had a conversation last week or the week before with Bailey Adams from Cornerstone Caregiving, which is a home care agency, and she was talking about using video in preparation for home visits and how a lot of people, right, when they're home, they're in their comfies. They're like in their casual t-shirt or sweatpants or just kind of really casual. And I think when people come to a community to visit or tour, they do feel like they kind of have to like get a little zhuzhed up a bit. And so if you can still be authentic, I know you probably look nice because you got dressed for work today, but I think too, if you can calm those fears of, hey, we're ready to take you just as you are. You can show up, in the most comfortable, authentic to you state. We're not looking for you to be dressed to the nines or anything like that. I think that also just reduces some of that fear,
Mhm.
remove some of the mystery, lets them know what to expect. And I promise you, and I would love to continue to hear feedback from those that are on this conversation. I promise you, if you start doing this before your tours, yes, you're going to start to see people actually show up for your tour. But I am so curious to hear the feedback that you receive, the successes that you experience. I know when I did this back in 2019, when I first got SalesMail, we didn't even have a building. So people did not know where to go. And they were like, that's a sales trailer. What are you talking about? And so when we did get a building, they had to come to a different place. And you could physically see people's shoulders drop. They were like, yes, you're who I've been talking to. Thank you so much for sending that. It's so good to be able to recognize a familiar face. And so I think there's going to be a lot of wins, like kind of what you said too, Betty Joe. There's going to be some untrackable wins and
Right.
things that you can't necessarily put a KPI or a specific ROI on, you're going to feel them. And so will your prospects. I appreciate you all for hanging out with us. I know we are coming up on the actual ultimate time. We are a little bit 10 minutes over our true conversation, but we wanted to make sure that you all had space to create, some rapport here in the chat. Ask us any questions that you have. Looks like everyone's doing good on LinkedIn too. So we just really appreciate you. Thank you, Betty Joe, so much for joining me for this. I've had a great time. I could talk to you for like 5 hours.
It's so fun, Christy. It's so fun. Thank you for asking me to come on. It's been a lot of fun.
Good. Well, we appreciate your insight. We appreciate all of the advice that you've shared, the examples that you've shared. And for those of you that join us for the Senior Living Sizzles, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. We will see you next time and hope that you have a great rest of your day and week ahead. Bye.